Welcome back to The Short Game. This is a show about short video games, games that respect your time. And I am Reagan Kelly, and this week I am joined by my very good co-host,
Laura Nash.
Thank you, Laura. And it's good to have you back, Laura. It's been a busy time for you, as it is around this time of year for pretty much everybody. Laura missed last week's extremely long game, but in a now long-held Short Game 2019 tradition, we are following up a very long game. The last one was... so last week, of course, that was Outer Wilds, and then earlier in the year, we followed Heaven's Vault, another very long game.
For us.
for our vibe, with a Frog Detective game. And so this time we're following up Outer Wilds with Frog Detective 2, The Case of the Invisible Wizard. So if you don't remember Frog Detective 1 from earlier in the year, this is a very cute sort of adventure gamey style point and click, first person-y solve 'em up that is extremely short. Just as with the first game, it is under an hour.
Yes, and Frog Detective 2 had my heart from two very specific angles. It took my heart first in Frog Detective 1 when it ended and said that the next episode was The Case of the Invisible Wizard. Love ending on an epilogue, especially when you're a tiny indie game. It's just so ballsy to be like, I'm doing a sequel, guys. It's happening.
Yeah, and hey, here it is, and 1 year later.
And two, when you go to the Steam page for this, it not only about this game has a picture of Frog Detective and a GIF that says, "This is a short game," animating.
Yes, this is a short game. And I think as they discovered with the first game, it's very important that they kind of tell their customers right up front that this is a very short game, literally about an hour. I remember reading that they'd had some problems with people buying the very first Frog Detective game and being disappointed that the game was as short as it was. So here they have put that very much front and center, pretty much the first thing that you see on the Steam page.
But it's celebratory front and center.
It is.
Which
I love that.
We really like.
Yeah, so I appreciate that they not only make that front and center, but make it clear that it's something that they're excited about. This is a selling point. And I'm going to save that GIF, and I'm going to use that GIF. Oh, I guarantee you I'm going to use that GIF.
That game is already on all of the various Dropboxes and boxes and shared drives I own. It's just in case I feel like I need it at 4 a.m., I can reach into various servers across this worldwide globe and stick a pink animated banner GIF that says, "This is a short game!" !
Yes.
Hallelujah. Thank you, Grace. That's the name of the developer. Not just a thanking Grace.
Yes, and the developer, or the team that developed it, I think is called Worm Club, which is also great. So yeah, there's if you listen to our last episode about the first Frog Detective game, there won't be a ton of surprises here. This game plays in pretty much exactly the same way. So just as in the first one was called The Haunted Isle or Haunted Island?
Island,
yes. So just as in The Haunted Island, Frog Detective, our very cheerful, besweatered, high-waisted pants-wearing frog gentleman, second best investigator in the world after the famous lobster cop, he has a new case, and just as with The Haunted Island, he has to travel to a new place, a new setting, and speak with a bunch of local residents to try and unravel a mystery. And the mystery in this case is that there's a wizard that has moved to town, and she's an invisible wizard, so no one knows what she looks like or where she is or if she's even around. And they were planning to throw her a parade, but someone wrecked the parade. And so you're there to discover who the culprit is, who wrecked the parade to welcome the invisible wizard to town.
Very mysterious. And I've been listening to everything I can about Knives Out, the recent murder mystery book. And so I feel like I now can know the lingo of mysteries. And this is a closed room mystery, except it's always outside in both the previous and this one. Small area, everyone's standing around outside, just kind of staring at this wrecked parade. You got to go find all of the people, talk to all the people, figure out their motives, what they need to give you more information. It's a little bit of a fetch quest, but it's such a tight area that I think that it's really doable and relaxing, because I am pretty sure that nothing I was going to do was going to take 6 hours to accomplish.
Yeah, the thing that this game does really, really well, and so did the first one, is just that this is a game that tells you exactly what it is, exactly what it's going to be, and it delivers in an hour. It's a nice sit-down, one-session experience. And it just delivers the last time I think we did this, I think I called the game a joke delivery system. That's essentially what this is. This is I think the closest analog to it would just be like a half hour or hour-long cartoon movie with jokes that are going to appeal to both children and adults. Nothing about it is particularly heavy, but it's also not dumb. It's just a very cute, pleasant experience that has many moments of very warm humor. And the detective himself is just such a charming character. There are a few things that are, I guess, kind of like pleasant surprises if you played the last one. The first was, for me, that in the first game, Lobster Cop was more sort of like a running joke. I don't think we ever actually saw Lobster Cop.
We did not.
But it was constantly referred to because, of course, Frog Detective is the second best investigator in the world, and he's very happy to be the second best after Lobster Cop, and he and everyone else knows that Lobster Cop is the real best investigator in the world. Well, of course, in this episode, we get to meet Lobster Cop, who you'd think might be a little bit conceited, being the best investigator in the world, and you'd be a little bit right, but he's also kind of a nice guy too.
More self-involved than like mean. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, of course, I loved Lobster Cop. I loved meeting Lobster Cop. I loved seeing Lobster Cop's office. I love saying Lobster Cop, if you hadn't picked up on that so far.
It's so, just the assonance is lovely.
It is
Lobster Cop.
Lobster Cop. And the other big, surprise from this game was that it added one big new gameplay feature, and that is that you have a notebook and you get to decorate your notebook, which was very cute.
Very important that Lobster Cop tells you need a notebook, and he lets you use his stickers. And, in some games, there are achievements for taking a gratuitously long time to decorate your art piece. If that was a thing, this game would have had to give me an award, because I meticulously decorated my notebook. I took everything and I dressed them up. I put like hearts on things. I put a little worm under the word notes to underline it. I did a little too much decorating, but my notebook was a work of art at the end. Reagan, what did you do with your notebook?
Well, so first of all, of course, I put 2 worms on it. The worm stickers were the cutest. And the other thing that I did was, I actually don't recall whether this was referenced at the very beginning of the game, like in the first call. I think it was, or maybe I was remembering it from the previous game, but I remembered, so they give you a sticker of the Frog Detective's face, and of course they also give you a sticker of a hat. And I remembered Frog Detective can't wear hats because of his oddly shaped head. This is made a point of several times throughout the games, and so I decided, well, of course I'm going to put Frog Detective, the sticker, on there. I'm going to give him that hat in a fantasy if he can't live the reality of having this beautiful hat. So that was the cover of my notebook, and that actually was a wonderful thing to remember at that moment. Because this game is basically a joke delivery system, we're going to do our best not to just simply tell you all of the best jokes. But I do want to mention that probably my favorite sort of understated joke or funny thing of the entire game was that when you're in Lobster Cop's office, if you look at the walls, he has several pictures of him, I guess, solving crimes or whatever. And there's a picture of him sitting at a bar with 2 other frogs, and those frogs are wearing hats. So either Frog Detective is completely wrong, and he could wear a hat if he wanted, or maybe these other 2 frogs have got something going on that Frog Detective doesn't know about. But I think the poor guy actually could wear a hat if he only tried. And so I thought the timing of that was very funny, because I was thinking about his hat wearing ability or hat disability. and then immediately saw these other two frogs with the hats and thought like, well, not only is Lobster Cop a huge show off, but so are these other two frogs.
Absolutely. And I think you said joke delivery device. So not only the pictures on the walls, but like even at the beginning of the game, there's just so much warm humor. So many other humorous games are a little catty or a little sassy or a little just absurdist. This game is pretty straightforward. I mean, for a silly animal game, the stuff makes sense. But the one joke they repeat that I got really excited about wasn't Lobster Cop. I got super excited because when you choose your graphic quality, this time they had a Venga Boys reference. And I know, Reagan, you said you were a little lost with this one.
So we were talking about this earlier, and I was like, oh no, I'm old. I saw this and I was like, this clearly looks like a reference, but I don't know what it is. So Laura, please explain Venga Bus.
So the graphics quality choices are Venga Bus is cut in everybody's New York to an inner city. It's as if the words are cut off. Those are the words to that Six Flags song we grew up with. That's what the words are.
I didn't know that had words.
That song has words, and those are the words.
Now you've cursed me with that, and I'm going to have to go YouTube it. Thanks a lot, Laura.
Yep, and now everybody... See, notice that I sang it rather than getting sued, because probably Venga Bus is not doing so hot, and I bet they'd come track us down for royalties if we actually put a clip in, so... Everyone
You'll
just
never
Google
catch
Venga
me
Bus.
alive, Venga Bus.
Venga Boys.
Venga Boys.
The Venga Boys are on the Venga Bus.
I see. Thank you. I think I understand the cosmology now.
Yes, we like to party, I believe, is the song.
Good to know. So
anyway, that's how the game starts, and that's the graphics quality choices. So you know it's going to be joke dense if that's how we're coming out the gate.
Yeah. The gameplay is pretty much the same as before. The whole sort of gameplay style of this is you're walking around mostly in a first person perspective around a fairly small space. The entire town is basically the size of a mid-sized room.
Closed room mystery with no murder.
Yes. And you're talking to every one of the sort of townspeople. You kind of talk to each one to kind of get a lay of the land. And then the majority of the game is about solving people's small problems in order to get them to help you solve your one very large problem. So a lot of that is like maybe somebody wants something and somebody else has it, but that person won't really trade it to you unless you get something else, and so on and so on. And it's the exact same structure as before. This time you have the notebook. I wonder if they got any feedback from people playing the first one that it would have helped to have a sort of clearer notebook sort of interface. I don't remember off the top. I don't think we had anything quite like the notebook in the first game.
I believe there was a list that one of the bad scientists was keeping, but I don't think you could actually make a note. Like, you can keep a list.
Yeah, it's been a few months since we played the first one, so apologies if we're misremembering there. But in any case,
it was definitely not as elaborate.
Yeah, it's definitely more elaborate, and you have this nice interface to see notes from Frog Detective, his crime-solving notes that he's taking about each person as he interviews them, about things like their motives and so on. What might their motive be for wrecking the parade? All the characters are super funny and cute. I particularly liked Mandy, who all these characters are animals. I'm not sure what type of animal Mandy is. Do you have any idea?
Aardvark?
That's a good guess. Maybe an ant. Oh, that's the same thing. Aardvarks and anteaters
are they the same thing?
Are they the
we
same?
Don't know. Don't look it up, everybody.
I'm not a zoologist. And I don't know what Mandy is either, but she is a witch and has a witch hat and super cool glasses, and will tell you about losing the bidding war on whatever this world's eBay equivalent was for getting Whizbay, of course, for buying some shoes that she really wanted. She's just super funny, and really all of the characters are funny. Ralph the lion.
Mandy embodies the new domesticity. She's really into like fashion and also baking.
I love her, and I love all the characters in this.
Too.
All the conversations were cute and funny, and they don't drag on. I really enjoyed it, and just like with the very first game, of course, the mystery is a very low stakes mystery. We're not talking about like a complex murder plot here, and also where at first it may seem that that something nefarious is going on here. Of course, actually, everyone's really nice once you get to know them, and it's all a big misunderstanding because that's what all of the mysteries are in this world. They're all just big misunderstandings that need to be unraveled by a very good boy who's a frog.
And you unravel them just by talking to people and maybe feeding them when they're hungry.
Yep. I love it. I love the story and the characters, and I love the graphics. And I mentioned this on the first time we did one of these, but I will mention it again. This game is really, really well done with its sort of idle animations. You know, this game is mostly about going around and talking to 3D models of characters who are essentially just standing still, right? So this game could look excruciatingly boring and dead, but they've done an amazing job with just sort of like really low-key animation. All of the characters are constantly moving in kind of low-key ways that are probably looping animations, but don't feel like, they're not like 1 second loops or anything, so they feel kind of alive. All of the characters have a little bit of life to them. And then there's moments where they do much more elaborate animations like dancing that I don't know if they did mocap for this, but things like the dancing make me think like, did they do mocap? Because it's just all such like good dance moves from these what would be like really stiff, boxy character models. I just really love the way they move.
They're truly wonderful. I mean, the faces don't animate, and that actually, to me, adds to the charm. It's just their bodies moving. So when they dance, it's even better because even though they have a still face, they'll totally look like they're boogieing down. And it's kind of this magic alchemy that I don't know how pretty static characters can move in such a charming way without, really, they don't really become like squiggly lines or anything, but they dance really well.
The animation just gives them life in a way that like is inexplicable because they are such simplistic character models. I don't know why they're so magnetic to look at, but I'm pretty sure that the animation is a huge part of it for me on some level. Just a lovely, lovely little experience. Do we have anything else to say about Frog Detective 2?
I want to say, and again, since the jokes are so much a part of the discovery of this game, if you're on the fence about whether or not to play it, I do want to give a preview of some of our favorite jokes just so you can say, yes, I am totally in. This humor is my thing. One micro joke is if you find any phrase like fill in the word boys to be funny, like I'm a private boy, I'm a busy boy. Like if you find those funny, you'll like this game.
There were many boys in this game. All of them good boys. But yeah, that's good call out. Yes, absolutely. And when you put it that way, it doesn't sound funny to me. But when it's used in the context of the game, I know that every time someone was described as a private boy, for example, I did find that very amusing.
Well, like if your note in your notebook is a busy boy, it's very funny to me.
Yes, I absolutely agree. I will call out one. I didn't take a ton of screenshots playing through this. I played through it pretty quickly, but I took a couple screenshots of moments that I thought were particularly funny. And one of the item delivery things is that you get a hook from your friend Ralph, who is a pirate enthusiast. And when Ralph gives you the hook, he says, "You can use it on your hand if you want. Or you can use it for something else. I'm not your dad," which I found very funny. And then Frog Detective says, "Not yet." And Ralph says, "What?" I'm sorry. I don't really know why I said that.
So excellent.
Yeah. Okay. They're jokes. We're good. I don't know how else to say that this game is funny, but this is a really funny, charming game that I think Grace Bruxner just nailed it with the humor and the characters. Frog Detective is just like an instantly magnetic, beautiful little boy.
Yes. And if you are playing through Steam, I bought on itch, but it comes with the Steam key. And if you play on Steam, there are achievements. There are 6 achievements. There are multiple endings, guys.
Wait, what?
So one of the achievements is just called gross. And you are looking at me blankly, Reagan. So if you pick up a dirty pie off the ground and try to give it to someone who's hungry, who's very offended, and you get an achievement called gross.
Yes. Okay. I forgot about that, and I did not get the achievements. I was playing through the itch page, so I'm glad to support this developer, and I think buying the game through itch gives them a larger chunk of the dirty floor pie.
And you get a Steam key anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
So.
And yeah, these games are not expensive. They are $4.99 each. They occasionally go on sale, but I would just pick them up. It's $5. It will. It's not a long thing to play through. I think these are the perfect games to play with if you have a child in your life who might be interested in the sort of, cute animal characters and the sort of veneer of mystery solving. I think these games are absolutely kid friendly. There's no sort of, blue humor here. It's all really cute. The jokes will work for adults, but I think most of them will also work for kids. There's a sort of a universality to this humor. If you have a kid that you think you might want to spend some time playing a game with, this is the right length for playing a game with a kid. It's not too long. The level of challenge is essentially zero, apart from just sort of basic problem solving.
Yeah. I will say if you are playing with a pre-reader that you will have to read it aloud, but hey, all of the characters are really clearly modeled, and I think it's a great opportunity for you to do some kick-ass voices.
Yes, do voices for all of the characters. It'll be a winner. So 100% recommend it. Maybe during the holidays is a good time for that sort of thing. Download this on your laptop and play through 45 minutes of a cute animal detective story with your niece or nephew or cousin. And on that thought, we thought it might be fun to talk a little bit about what are some other short games that might be fun to play with a young member of your family during the holidays, because that's right now, and this is a question that might be facing some of you.
Yeah, I will definitely be aunt/babysitter for a large chunk of the holidays because my delightful niece and nephew are out of school and the daycare is closed. So,
how old are the niece and nephew?
My niece is about to start kindergarten, and my nephew is just celebrating his 9th birthday. So pretty far apart. But the interesting thing for them is, like, I would say that my niece is super cuddly and has a very short attention span. So something like Frog Detective would be fun to play with her before she runs off. Whereas my nephew would actually want to solve the mystery. So I think it would work with both of them. But it's been interesting. I've been looking for games to buy for him for Christmas. This is my nephew who called me Aunt Laura iPad when he was little. Because every time I came home, I would show him new games on the iPad. And so he started calling me Aunt Laura iPad, which made me feel...
That's
okay.
That's a complicated feeling right there.
I worked for a kids game company, so it made sense. But also, it was a complicated feeling.
It's not even your middle name. It's your last
not even
name.
My middle name. iPad.
Laura iPad.
Aunt Laura iPad. So Aunt Laura iPad is going to try to come through with some games he can play on his own after I leave. And the first one, besides picking up Pokemon Let's Go, because he likes Pokemon, I think I'm going to get him Yoku's Island Express.
Oh, nice. Yeah, are you so he has a Switch, or what is he playing on?
He has a Switch. He mostly just plays Minecraft.
I think, so obviously a kid like 9 years old, like there's going to be the sort of heavy hitter stuff, Minecraft and Mario Kart probably, and things like that.
We'll play Mario Kart together.
Yeah, and those are always fun. So, if you have the chance to play a game along with a kid, like Mario Kart is never a bad choice. But yeah, I want to try to broaden, okay, so I don't actually have any kids that are quite his age in my family. But I'm kind of thinking ahead, of course, to okay, well, eventually I'm going to have a kid that's that age, right? So, and right now my daughters I guess, game she's ever shown any interest in whatsoever is the aquarium screensaver on my Roku TV. You know,
so she'll be real into Abzu.
Oh yeah. No, she'll absolutely be. Who knows? We'll see. But I would love to try and get her into something other than Minecraft. No offense to Minecraft in particular. Mm-hmm. I think Minecraft is a good and interesting game, but I like a different sort of game for the most part. And so
this one felt nice and gateway. One of the things is that, you know, he doesn't necessarily play for long bouts of time because, you know, he's got a lot of stuff to do. Kids are busy nowadays.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to get something that, you know, wasn't too hard, that he could win, that, you know, have a lot of checkpoints. And for people who aren't familiar, Yoku's Island Express is this mashup of like a platformer and a pinball game. So you're exploring the world, but you get these little pinball tables. So to me, it felt like a really, you know, it can be a little challenging, but it's very forgiving. And I think that's incredibly important because the number one thing I see when I play with kids is that they quit because they're losing. And there's no progress and they don't know how to win. Which is fair. A lot of puzzles are made for adults and they're made for an adult's attention span and they're trying to be challenging to adults. But that safety net that seems to be in the game, so it's more relaxing, made it a really easy, Christmas gift for my nephew who does not listen to the podcast because he's 9.
I think it's actually a really good pull. And I love that game so much. I think it works for kids and adults, but it's, I think it has some like 9-year-old boy appeal in that, you know, you're playing as like an insect rolling a ball of presumably possibly dung. I think there's that angle on it. And it's also just like, it's got some characters, not a ton of dialogue or anything, but it's got some cute characters. I think it's a really, really good pick.
I thought about buying Goose Game, but I think it's going to inspire him to be a dick.
Oh no, that's actually a really good question. I feel
like it's like giving a kid like a drum. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm afraid if I give him Goose Game, he's just going to run around terrorizing his parents. Like, I want to share Goose Game with him. I know Ty loved Goose Game, but Ty is a little boy. And my nephew is a bigger boy who can be much more mischievous.
Yeah. I got some really good Ty Goose Game stories from Shane. And I also was... I want to hear more. I don't think he was trying to act anything out, but he was definitely very, very amused by all of the actions of the goose and wanted to command the goose to do whatever sorts of mischief he was inventing. So I think if you're wanting, it depends on your kid's temperament, but if your kid is more of a watcher than a player, Goose Game might be a better, not better, but like a particularly good choice because it is so... like you can invent little things to do with the goose, and I could imagine sort of allowing your young relative to invent what the goose should do, and then you try to enact that for or with the goose. That's a good collaborative way to play a game with a kid.
Very much, and I think for like me as a kid who was a goody but really liked pretending to be bad, Goose Game would have been super fun for me. My nephew is much more of the like, I see Spider-Man and I'm going to be a ninja and run around kicking things. Like Goose Game seems like not the right choice.
Yeah, definitely take your kid's temperament into account. If that's the case, though, Laura, you should absolutely never show him Katamari Damacy, which was going to be the next thing I brought up, because I think that's a really good kid-friendly game that any kid can learn to play and have a great time playing. And I'm so glad that it's been re-released. All these, by the way, are games that we've done episodes on. So, hey, if you want to hear all of our thoughts about Yoku's Island Express, for example, we have a whole episode on it. And we also have a whole episode on the Katamari Damacy re-release. Or rather, I don't think we did a whole episode on that. We re-released our
re-released
episode.
And introed it, yeah. Yes. But honestly, like, what do you think he's going to do after he sees Katamari? Like, he can't roll up the universe. Like, it seems pretty harmless.
He's just going to start pushing people over and trying to roll them into balls.
Maybe. I don't know.
I
That
don't
one might be
either.
worth risking it just so I can share the soundtrack with
Oh
him.
yeah, that's totally good. And I don't know. I don't have.
I'm also not there all year, so
Yeah, that's true. You just gotta get him really, really into rolling up balls of things, and then just release him back to his home, and he can.
maybe he'll clean his room.
I think
No.
actually, kids who like Minecraft definitely could get into Katamari. I think there's a certain like through line there. It's got the collecting and something about the aesthetic. It's not obviously the same, but I think that Minecraft has primed an entire generation of young people to like retro styled graphics, both 2D and 3D, more than they otherwise might have. And so, we can say anything about Minecraft. Thank you, Minecraft, for keeping that door open one more generation.
Oh, and real quick, because I didn't mention at the top of this section, I do actually have bona fides in this section because I did make kids games.
True.
So you might be like, why is this childless woman talking about games for kids? That's why I prioritize frustration first, because I played in the age of like the iPad where kids were like under a certain age don't have the hand strength to take a binder clip off of the home button. So you could just stick a binder clip over the home button and they couldn't quit the game. So you could make them play the game you wanted.
That's actually a really good tip. I didn't think about that.
It is. Unfortunately, they're like designing away those home buttons.
Oh,
so
yeah. Duh.
the tip will last for like
Well, they have
another
a
month.
system level feature for that now called guided
They do.
access. You can enable. You have to basically put in like the Konami code, and it locks the iPad to just a particular app or mode or something. So there are
but they
options.
wouldn't build that for so long. So
Yeah.
we use binder clips.
Clever.
But anyway, the frustration was the main thing. Like if it gets too hard, like kids love doing the same thing over and over again if they're okay at it. But if they're actively bad at it, they're just going to leave.
That's true. Yeah. On the same kind of, I wouldn't say the same vibe exactly, but like in line with the Frog Detective games, which are essentially, they're first person, but they're essentially point and click adventure games based mostly on dialogue. If you think that your kids are into that style of game, if they want more of a sort of living cartoon rather than
story.
Yeah. The first thing that sprung to my mind out of games that we've covered would be Grim Fandango. Grim Fandango is it's like a LucasArts 3D puzzle game. There have been some good re-releases of it on bunches of different platforms, so you can play it on practically anything now. And the humor and characters of it 100% hold up. The puzzles, not so much. So my recommendation with Grim Fandango would be either play it yourself with their assistance and look up a walkthrough to help yourself keep the story moving along so that you're not boring the young ones with walking back and forth while you try to figure out where to get the chicken with the pulley in the middle. Try just sort of look up the puzzle solutions and treat it like a Pixar movie. And I think it really holds up as a story. Maybe hand the controller off to them and let them, control Manny around. If you do that, turn off the tank controls first. But assuming that you've already done that, you can get the kids involved, or you can play it together and have that walkthrough ready, because those puzzles are sometimes completely unfair even to adults, but it's still such a good story with so many good jokes.
I mean, having the puzzles, quote unquote, ruined for you, they're still fun. Like, they're still fun to watch. I'll say this is great for like the kids you might think will turn into goth teenagers, because it's got like a Day of the Dead vibe to them. And like, there's a little bit of like, peril and skeletons and afterlife themes, but it's totally clean.
If they liked Coco, they'll love the story of Grim Fandango. They're practically in the same universe.
With a little more gangsters.
Yeah. So I love that. And, honestly, most of the LucasArts games would kind of work in that same way if you took that approach with playing them with kids. Maybe stay away from the Indiana Jones ones.
So in the past, we've also talked a little bit about board games towards the end of the year. And that's an interesting thing with kids who are not old enough to stay up with the adults, but are old enough to have played a lot of board games and like want to play with the family.
The other problem I've run into here is that so many board games targeted at kids are really boring.
So boring and so bad. And also just like not like classic games are usually awful. Like Monopoly lasts for 70 hours.
It's not a good game for kids at all. It's really not a good game for adults, but it's particularly not a good game for kids, which is why it boggles my mind that it's still on every shelf in every toy store and Target and everything.
I think everyone just like grabs what they know.
Yeah.
But there are kids games, like I've played like Clue Junior and that kind of stuff. But I am going to bring home my copy of Codenames Pictures because it's a game for adults, which is Codenames, which is the game where you're trying to make people, the point of Codenames is you've got words on a grid and you're trying to get your team to know what word you're hinting at without the other team guessing it. But with pictures, they don't have to have a high vocabulary to do that. So Codenames Pictures is there's pictures, there's a lot of info on the cards. So it's worked pretty well because it's harder to say the word on the card, which was a huge problem when we play Heads Up, that like categories where you guessed it. Like my nephew would just hold it up and read the card. Like he reads really well and he would just say the word. And then everyone would like say it back to him and be like, you all got it. And it was adorable. It was not the game. If there's a picture on the card and he says, if there's a picture of an aquarium and he says aquarium, like, yeah, he like over hinted, but he didn't cheat. So
that's a good point.
It's like a good evolution.
Yeah.
So have you ever played a board game with a whole family that worked?
Honestly, no. I don't think I've ever played a board game with a kid that young. My first thought was going to be to the game that I usually pull out when I'm going to play a board game with people who aren't used to playing the kinds of board games that I tend to be interested in. And so I usually pull out Kill Dr. Lucky, which is a great game for, people of any age, I think, but I don't know exactly what the sort of like best age cutoff for it would be. You have to be okay with them having, with the themes of murder. It's sort of lighthearted and goofy murder, but it is murder nonetheless. I think it's a wonderful game to pull out at a family gathering like this because it isn't the same thing everyone's played a zillion times before, but it's pitchable in one sentence in a way that almost everyone will get, which is you can just say, well, it's Clue, except instead of trying to solve the murder, we're trying to commit the murder.
And everyone's like, done, I'm in.
Yeah, and because that's what everyone was really excited about with Clue anyway, right? It's also the rules are pretty easy to follow, and I will also say in particular that they've improved the rules a lot with the current edition, which is called the 19.5th anniversary edition, which is a much better printing and nicer box and everything than the old version, and is also available now. Like you don't have to have this unobtainium copy that was printed and is long out of print. No, you can get them on Amazon. It's not a very expensive game now. So I would absolutely recommend that game as a sort of holiday family gathering game.
Absolutely. Everyone likes a little bit of a murder mystery. And honestly, like again, probably not at 9, but like 10, 11, I think would really like it because everyone's played Clue and it's not a hard strategic game necessarily. It's just like a lot of that like Munchkin style, read a card, it's funny, take your turn, and it feels fair. Yeah. Like bad things happen all the time, but it feels fair.
And the rules are simple enough that like you can literally summarize them with every turn you either move to a different room or you quote unquote do something, and the do something options are extremely simple. So like your options at any one given time are very, very simple, and the game never gets super complex at all. While still being a lot of fun. So that's a big recommend from me as a holiday game for families and probably kids too. Depends on the kids.
And Kill Dr. Lucky did make it through our moving purge. I'm staring at a copy right now
for
my Kickstarter. So a big fan of that one.
Yeah. So listeners, I would love to hear from you. Maybe you have a kid in the, I don't know what age range we're really talking about. It doesn't really matter. But maybe you have a kid that you have tried to play games with and you have success or failure stories. I'd love to hear about those because those are all pretty much in my future.
Yeah, and games that the kid can play on their own and games you can play with them, I think, are two different categories. So we would love to hear either of those.
Yeah, and if you want to let us know about that stuff, there's a few good ways to get in touch with us. Of course, you can go to our website, www.theshortgame.net, where we've got a contact form, or you can find us on Twitter @_shortgame. Or, of course, you can become part of our Discord. So this show is supported by listeners on our Patreon, www.patreon.com/theshortgame. And listeners at any level get an instant invite to our Discord where we chat about the games that we're playing, not just stuff for the show, but whatever we happen to be playing and thinking and talking about at the moment. It's a great place to hang out on the internet. It's also a great place to suggest games to us or let us know what you thought about episodes, or tell us the story about your little niece or nephew that you played a great game of, I don't know, Call of Duty with or something. Tell us that story. I want to hear it. And also, of course, you can find me on the internet at RayganK. That's RayGanK. And Laura, where can people find you?
You can find me on the internet at Laura J. Nash.
And listeners, thank you for listening to The Short Game. We'll be back next week with another episode, and we'll hopefully be keeping it weekly all through the holidays. So have a happy rest of your 2019. We'll be back with you next week.